So today I'm talking to Jacqueline Rooney, who is artistic, I think if I had to use one word adjective. And so we've just been having a bit of a chat before we started recording. Tell us about why you became a teacher, because it's not the sort of typical, oh, I always wanted to be a teacher type of thing.
Hi, Melanie. Yes, it wasn't always my childhood dream. My childhood dream was to be an artist. But growing up, and when I told careers advisors and teachers of my dream, it was a look of horror on their faces because that wasn't a normal job description or a normal career path. So I was steered down the direction into teaching art, which I do love children, absolutely, and I know teaching is a fantastic career. So I think I listened to the influencers around me at that point, parents, teachers, relatives, and I did go down that path and became an art teacher.
Right. And how long did you teach for?
I was a teacher for, I would say, 15 years in total. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And so you were telling me before that the art thing didn't just go away just because everybody made you get a proper job. So how did you carry on balancing those two sides of your life?
Well, I graduated with a Bachelor of Education honours in Art and Design in 2000, and I made a promise to myself, and my childhood promise for myself was to be an artist eventually. And I sold my art alongside my teaching career. So I was teaching art up to A level in the school. I was head of art actually in the school, and alongside that, I had my own solo art exhibitions. So I kind of challenged myself to do one every sort of 4 to 5 years, and had my first one in 2002. So 2 years after I graduated. So I was very determined to keep that going and keep that very much in a part of my life. So I did do that alongside the teaching career.
That must have been quite hard work, especially as
It
head
was.
of department.
Yes, it was. And I would have found myself burning the candle at both ends and maybe sitting painting to 1 in the morning and then going in to teach classes the next day. And it was a labour of love and it was my absolute passion. But I suppose I was always determined to make it more than just a hobby. But I didn't know and didn't have the confidence at that point, to do or to know how to even go about that. But also, I found myself, I was saying to my students, follow your dreams, follow your passions. And I felt almost hypocritical at the front of the classroom saying that because I actually wasn't doing that, So there was always a niggle in the back of my mind that I had to do that at some point.
So what was the catalyst?
The turning point, the turning point in our lives, my husband and I had a very eventful period whereby within 8 months he had lost both his mum and dad to cancer, and in the same 18-month period we had our two sons. So we had a real it was like a jolt, a nudge from the universe, and we sat down one night and we both said, life is too short. We have other dreams and passions that we really want to pursue, and why are we not doing it? And we were nearly 40 at this point. We were in early 30s. He was a teacher as well, and we just decided it's now or never. So we both handed in our notices at the same time.
Right. So you already had a basis for your business established already, and obviously you knew how to go about getting clients because you had been doing through your exhibitions. How liberating was it? I mean, obviously you had more time because you'd packed in teaching, but I mean, I know I was teaching part-time and trying to run my business on the side. I've spoken to other people who have done that, but how liberating was it to not have to try and balance, I mean, obviously you had more time to devote to your business, but what am I trying to ask really? Was it more than just having more time? It gave you more creative freedom, way more scope, did you find?
Yeah,
Sort of
it
more
was.
than the sum of its parts kind of thing.
Yeah, it was the best feeling in the world. I had no hesitations writing the letter. I was nervous. Obviously, I had two wee boys and a mortgage to think about, as did my husband. But I think when he was going through a dark time at that point, mental health wise, we both just said, right, we've got to do this and we've got to make it work. And from the moment we both handed in our letters, we never looked back. We never for 1 second stopped feeling grateful for doing it. And it was the most liberating, free feeling that I've ever had, I suppose, in my life. Even though it wasn't this, as many would say, the sensible option, to give up a very secure, good job, with a pension and all of that, and great holidays. I mean, the amount of people that said to my husband and I, "Oh, you're both teachers. That must be fantastic. You're both off in the summer." And it didn't matter, Melanie. We just weren't fulfilling our dreams and our passions. And it honestly, even though I would say we work maybe 3 times the amount of hours that we did as teachers, I wouldn't change it for a second, you know. So it definitely, my art became more and more vibrant and colorful and full of hope. And I think that was reflection of where I was in my own, you know, in my own mind at that time. So you know, and then all of these opportunities started coming in for both of us. So I think, you know, there were a lot of signs telling us we were doing the right thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously other people I've spoken to, when they decided to have a career change, needed to do some training. You didn't, because you already were an artist. But did you get any sort of help or advice with running a small business?
Absolutely. I mean, I was literally having to turn my passion into a viable business. And I was coming obviously from a teaching background with no business experience. We didn't have business studies in school or anything whenever I was back in the day at school. So I had to start training in business. And I was very fortunate. Our local council offers a lot of free training and support for small businesses and startups. So I went and applied for absolutely everything that I could and started to train myself as a businesswoman. So it was a totally new field. Yes, I was very confident in my art and my paintings and all of that, but I needed to make sure I was going to cover my bills and cover the mortgage and all of that. So I had to really be disciplined. So although I would love to say I paint 24/7, it's a small part of the business, you know. So there's a lot of other pieces to the puzzle, you know. So I had to really learn a lot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's something I didn't think about. Yeah, that you've two hats, doing the thing you do, but then running the thing you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's in a lot of ways it's much steeper learning curve, isn't it? Than so has it all been rosy, or have there been any pitfalls along the way, any barriers, obstacles?
Well, I would be lying if I said it was all rosy. I mean, obviously the dream is rosy because it's all I've ever wanted, but the actual business growth journey has been there've been a lot of challenges. It's been a roller coaster, especially whenever the pandemic hit.
Right.
And my husband and I were both self-employed, and not very long into our businesses, we knew we weren't going to have any funding or support from anywhere. So it actually pushed us to be really throw everything at our businesses and make it happen, make it work, because we weren't going to go back to the classroom. We were determined not to. So yeah, it was a very scary time. But what happened was, people were in their homes and they were doing up their homes and they wanted colorful, vibrant art. And suddenly my business started to go in a really different direction. And I was very fortunate over that time. I got out of the blue a phone call from the BBC presenter and designer on the repair shop, 𝗵𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃. He found me on Instagram and rang me out of the blue and said he wanted to collaborate with me. So we collaborated, and that was in the midst of COVID. And from there, my business started to really grow in the UK and beyond. So it literally, as I say, there were a lot of signs that were coming at us that we were doing the right thing. Other things that have been scary for me is I've opened a gallery now locally where I live, and so I have overheads and staff and all of those things. So that's been a real challenge. And as I say, it's balancing your finances and learning about how to do that a lot more. So it definitely hasn't been, you know, a plain sailing, let me say, but there's not a second that I don't feel grateful for doing it, and I still don't regret it for a second, you know. So I would say if it's something you're very passionate about or something that you're I've always wanted to do, I think it will happen for you if that's your motivation for doing it, you know.
Yeah, and congratulations on the award that you recently won. Tell us about that.
Yeah, yesterday I received a Mighty Woman Award for a mighty woman in the arts, basically. I feel really, really proud of that, Melanie, because as I say, it's turning the narrative from just being an artist, as it were, to being a successful businesswoman, and that's something I'm really trying to put out there as well and portray, because you know, you would have that sort of a mentality of people saying, oh sure, you know, you're an artist, you do a few wee paintings and things, but it's so much more than that, and it is being a businesswoman and being successful in that. And I also I really like to inspire other people that I'm now 45, that it's never too late to follow that dream and pursue that some, you know, passion that you have inside, because as I say, I'm doing it now, but it took me to this point to have that confidence and to have that real drive to make it happen and make it work. So I suppose I'm proud as being a mighty woman, to sort of represent other mighty women out there that are doing the same, and men obviously, that it's, you know, it isn't too late to change your career, leave something you're not happy in, and pursue what you really want to, you know, pursue.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd have done differently with the benefit of wonderful hindsight?
The only thing I would say would be I regret not doing it sooner, honestly. What I do is to say I think my confidence has grown, and at this stage of my life, I'm in a better position to be doing it. So, I think things happen for a reason, and sometimes those rocky paths that you're on, or you know, they kind of lead you to the right destination. So, um, you know, I would say I don't regret anything in my life, even having taught for so many years, because I met some amazing people along that journey, and I learned so much as well. So, you know, it's I think it's very important to stop and feel very grateful for the good things that are happening in your life, and not maybe dwell on any regrets or any
Mm,
indecisions in the past.
yeah. And if you had to pass on one piece of advice to anybody watching this and, you know, not being sure that the time's right for them, what advice would you give them?
I would just say life is too short. We don't know what's coming next. We don't know what's around the next corner. Do not have any regrets in your life. And just if there's something burning inside you or a niggle, I would listen to it, listen to your gut, trust your gut, and absolutely go for it. You've nothing to lose, you know.
Mm, yeah. I feel like we've rattled through that really quickly, but I do feel like you've said quite a lot and been very yeah, giving good explanations. So I do want to just backtrack to something that we talked about before we started recording, that you had career breaks while you were
Yes,
teaching. Tell us about that, because I mean that is an option that some people, just to give themselves some space to take stock of
absolutely.
things. So how did your career breaks work?
Yeah, I took my first career break in 2005. So I was teaching 5 years. Just you have to be obviously permanent in a school for 5 years here. That would be the rule for a career break. And went solo to Australia for a year. And because, as I say, I had my house, my car, my boyfriend, all my ducks in a row, a lovely job, but I wasn't happy. There was, as I say, there was that niggle in the back of my mind, and knew there was more to life. And when I went to Australia, I got to teach art in Australia, which was an incredible experience. But also the people I met and the freedom I felt from doing that on my own gave me a real like a real eye opener into this big world that's out there to
Mm,
conquer and see. And then I came back to do my job. And then when I met my husband, I told him about that year, and he said, "Look, I'd love to do something like that. Why don't we do it together?" So we applied for a career break. Then that was in 2014. So several years later, and the two of us went to around the world to teach English as a foreign language. We're both teachers, so we trained in the modules and things, and then we went and travelled everywhere from New Zealand, Australia, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines, and Thailand. And but that year was cut slightly short because his father fell ill. So that's what brought us back. But it was also, as I say, it kind of, we took a risk there. And I think that taking a risk twice for me during my teaching career, it was nearly like it gave me that courage to really take the risk and hand him a notice when I did do that. So I think that's paramount to the journey that I've been on. And if I haven't mentioned it already, Melanie, my husband and I both handed in our notice at the exact same time. So it gave us both that feeling of, you know, if you want to do something, you can absolutely do it. You can try it, and you know, we did.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So it just remains me to say thank you so much for giving up your time for us today, Jackie, and sharing. You know, I can just feel the positivity radiating off you through the screen. That's really come across. So thank you very much for your time today.